the heart behind today is about how do we stop the leak that's happening with our sales teams? And a lot of companies for the last 8 years haven't had to worry about this because business has been really good. It's been all they can do to just surf the tidal wave. But we're starting to see things dry up now. And the next, number of months are not going to be like the past ones. And so what it's going to take if we're going to be salespeople that are effective is we actually have to be intentional with the way that we track and the way that we follow through on all of our opportunities. What I found as I've traveled around to work with businesses and kind of secret shop and be inside of showrooms is that most showrooms in our industry don't have any type of a follow-up process. And we're going to get into why that is and what it means to even have a follow-up process. But everybody in business is looking for the silver bullet. And this is one of those things that it is literally like the least expensive thing you can do. It's not paid advertising. It's not extra marketing. You don't have to hire anybody for it. It literally is just refocusing and energizing the people that are on your team. And this has been put together through kind of my journey of failing my way through this until I got to a point where I was able to look back at my mistakes and put some things together to move the needle going forward. So I'm really, really excited about this course. Now, if you guys have any questions throughout this whole process, please put them in the chat and Erica will get my attention. But if you want to, you're welcome to take yourself off of mute, interrupt me, and we can just dialogue this together. So if that sounds good in the chat, I want you to give me a yes with an exclamation point. If that sounds good, you've got the chat in front of you. So as we get moving today, all right, perfect. Justin says yes, I love that. As we get moving today, what I want to talk about is a few things. So I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. And this course at the end of the day is going to show you just 3 simple things. Number 1, we are going to talk about why tracking and follow-up is the biggest missed opportunity in the hearth industry today. I mean, this is the biggest missed opportunity. We're going to get into the reasons why, but I'll give you a hint, and it's because we're paying thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing costs every year to bring people into our showroom. And most businesses are letting most of those people just walk out the other side with no way to follow up with them. So tracking and follow-up is the biggest missed opportunity. The second thing this course is going to teach you is how to build a CRM spreadsheet for your team that's going to transform their productivity. For those of you that haven't heard the term CRM before, it just stands for Customer Relationship Management. And some of you on this call might work for a bigger company where you pay a monthly fee for, really complex and expensive CRM software. If you do, amazing. I'm not going to tell you to stop it. But what you might find from the simple spreadsheet I'm going to recommend is there might be some fine tuning that you can add to your system. But if you're like most businesses and that you've never heard of the CRM or you don't use one or have time for one, this will change the way that you manage your sales team and it will vastly increase their productivity. Number 3, this course is going to teach you how to focus and manage your team with a weekly game plan, even if they're remote. So if your businesses are in a spot where team members are working from home or they've been furloughed, this weekly game plan combined with the CRM can make it to where your team member is just as effective working from home, working, in the showroom, literally working in Hawaii. I've had team members that have taken a vacation to Hawaii and they wake up early in the morning to knock out a little bit of sales. They can work effectively anywhere with this system. So like I said, as we go through this, please ask questions. Listening to me talk for an hour and 15 minutes will not make a difference in your business. You might think, oh yeah, that's a cool concept. I should do something like that. But that's not going to make a difference. What's actually going to make a change is asking questions and contextualizing this for your specific company and then going out and doing something about it. Okay, so it looks like the chat's working. We've got Justin, Lorenzo, Kim, and Michelle. You guys said yes. That's awesome, and we're going to get going here. So the first thing I want to do, I want to introduce you to myself 10 years ago. Okay, I know you can comment in the chat about, wow, I look like I'm just a sophisticated young man, right? Drinking beer at the Salt Lake City trade show. So this is a picture of me from 10 years ago. And I want to give you some information about myself then, right? So, 10 years ago, I was your average salesperson. If you have salespeople that work in your company, maybe this is you, but this is where I was at the time. So 10 years ago, I got a chance to go to Salt Lake City. It was the last time the trade show was held there. And I was really excited. I mean, I don't think I'd ever been paid to get on an airplane before and go stay in a nice hotels. Like, that was amazing. I'd always heard about the trade show and it sounded incredible. And I felt really important that I was able to go. And I had a great time. I think this was in the Napoleon booth. Um, it was awesome just being able to go and see all the different vendors. But the reason I choose this picture is this, in many ways, summarizes who I was at the time. So if you were to ask, the honest truth about what did it mean to be Tim Reed, average salesperson? Well, first off, I love fireplaces. I absolutely loved them. At this point in the industry, I'd been in the game for almost 5 years. I'd been an installer for about 4 of those years, and I'd been in a sales role now for about a year, and I'd had some success as far as I thought. And I loved fireplaces. I was super passionate about it. At this trade show, I was literally going into all the competitors' booths, tearing apart their stuff that was on display. And I didn't quite get kicked out, but I got talked to by some of these companies that didn't want me messing with their stuff. But I love fireplaces. I was great with people, products, and technical knowledge. And the situation that I was in was I was working for a retailer that was pretty successful. They had a couple locations and they sold a lot of products. And if you would have asked really anybody there, they would have looked to me as the technical expert. They would have said, yeah, I mean, whenever we have a question, we go to Tim. Whenever our salespeople on the floor that don't know as much need an answer, Tim comes in and he helps them out. I knew, virtually every clearance of all the stoves and fireplaces we had on the floor. I was like a walking, talking manual. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that that's what it meant to be a good salesperson, was to get along well with people and have knowledge of products and the technical things that go with that. It actually wasn't really the case. I like to drink beer. There's a picture there, right? I like to have a good time. But at the end of the day, 10 years ago, I did not understand how much a lack of follow-up was costing me. Yeah, beer is good. Justin, I'm with you. Beer is good. But that was me. That was my life, right? If you would have asked the other people in my company, they would have said, Tim is the model of what a salesperson should look like. If you would have asked my boss at the time, they would have probably said, Tim, he's young. He's probably got some maturity stuff he's still working through, but he is an amazing salesperson and he's driving our company forward. The truth was, I was extremely mediocre. And I would argue that I was not even a salesperson. I was an information giver. And it all came down to the fact that I didn't understand how much lack of follow-up and personal organization on the sales floor was costing me. And I'm telling you, it was costing my company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm going to take you through why that is. But I just want this to sink in, because maybe this is you, maybe this is your team member. And for me at this time in my life, I wasn't trying to be lazy. I wasn't a person of ill will. I loved fireplaces, but I didn't understand what it was to be a salesperson. Part of that was the expectation that was set for me. And we're going to get into why that is. But I want that to sink in and type in the chat, give me a yes. I was going to say, give me a thumbs up, but give me a yes in the chat if that's familiar to someone in your company or you yourself. You don't have to differentiate which one, but give me a yes if that sounds familiar. What it came down to for us is that, we didn't have a follow-up system. And frankly, most businesses don't. When I got hired for this role, and I'm thankful for this role, this was a good company and they sold a lot of product. But when I got hired, I had a job interview and they said, hey, Tim, you've been an installer for 4 years. You really know fireplaces. You seem to be good with people. We're going to get you on the sales floor. So that was the job description. So for me, being a salesperson meant my job is to sit at my desk. When people come in, I ask them questions about fireplaces and I try to write up an order and ask for the sale. That's fine. That's definitely part of being a salesperson. But honestly, that is like 20%. 80% of being a salesperson is the follow-up system, is the tracking system, is the organization. And because I had not been given expectations of this is what follow-up is, this is how you do it, this is called a sales goal, this is called a sales pipeline, I didn't know any of that stuff. My understanding of my job was actually only about 20% of what it was. And when I say that, the company could have made a lot more money during that time, it could have, but the expectation wasn't set. So Justin says, I have a follow-up system. But I certainly need to perfect it. Yeah. I got to move my chat window here so I can see it. There we go. I have a follow-up system, but I certainly don't think it's perfect. I'm with you. And a lot of people do. So people that have a follow-up system are going to find that it's a superpower compared to folks that don't. And you might even find in your business that there's one or two people that have a follow-up system that get good results, but it's not systematized for everybody. And there's a story from a couple years ago. I was out visiting a large manufacturer, and we were having dinner with some of their top dealer accounts that night, and just having a conversation over dinner. And I was just talking with one of the business owners because I wanted to learn and just get better. And I said, hey, so tell me about your guys' follow-up system. You're doing some amazing numbers. How do you guys follow up with customers? And he kind of looked down at his food, and he looked up a little bit embarrassed and said, we don't have one. They might get called back once. But this is a successful business that didn't have a follow-up system. So if you don't have one, there's no shame here, because obviously you've been successful enough to be around now without it. But if you can utilize this, it will change the way that you run your business, and it will vastly increase the effectiveness of your salespeople. So it's okay that most businesses don't have one. But because most businesses don't have a follow-up system, they don't know what to do with their leads. And I'll tell you a quick story here, because I just think it's funny. I remember, years and years ago at a job, we wrote up everything by hand. And I did a good job of when a customer come in, asking them questions and trying to get that written proposal. But a lot of people didn't buy. And so what would happen is when they leave the showroom, I'd take my carbon copy, paper piece, and I would go file it away into a little, it's like a little portable filing system. It was like a little folder, and it sat in the corner of the showroom. And it got covered in dust, and jackets and coats and stuff would get put on it. And I remember from time to time, the owner would come talk to the sales team and be like, hey, you're slow. You're playing solitaire. Why aren't you calling back your bids? And I remember thinking, like, why would I do that? I'm not going to push these people. Like, if they want to buy, they'll come in and buy. And that was it. So the owner was frustrated, but the expectation was never set on, this is why you call to follow up. This is how sales works. This is how often you need to follow up. This is how you track it. So nothing happened. The owner stayed frustrated. The team didn't know what the owner's problem was. And ultimately everybody lost, especially our customers. So most businesses don't have a system like this. And as a result, most businesses in our industry also don't know what to do with a lead. And so they end up doing nothing. And very often I've had businesses that will tell manufacturers, stop sending me leads. They'll say this during busy times of the year, stop sending me leads. I can't handle it. Well, that's business suicide. It's absolute business suicide. As a business, leads are your lifeline. They cannot be taken for granted. They are worth, potentially millions of dollars as you build them up and learn to follow up on them. And most businesses don't value them. If a manufacturer or a sales rep sends a lead in, yeah, maybe it gets called once. And then what happens? I don't know. If it even gets called up at all, it doesn't happen a second time because the salesperson, they checked the box. Yeah, we called them. We did our job. That's not how it works, right? In sales, the burden's on you to connect with the customer. It's not on them to connect with you. And because businesses don't know what to do with their leads, they end up, having to work really hard for sales. They end up having to pay way more money in marketing because they're not maximizing what has already come their way. And I totally get this is a seasonal business, and there's times a year where we're super, super busy, but it doesn't matter. Like, we all signed up for a seasonal business. And so, like, when it's time to make hay when the sun's shining, we can't stop things and say, no, I don't have time. I can't do it. So we have to develop a system, even in the busy season, to maximize our leads. And there's absolutely a way that we can do that together. Let me know if this is resonating with you, because this, for me, like, this is a really big deal, and everything changed as I started to do this. So the timeline here that I want to give you is this. I'm going to move my chat window out of the way just a little bit. The timeline I want to give you is this. So this course is a product of about the last 7 years of my life. And I worked for this business previously that I mentioned 10 years ago, where I was an average salesperson. I had decent numbers, but no follow-up system and very little organization. About 7 years ago, I got hired by a large company to build out a new division of their company focused on retail work. And so essentially 7 years ago, I started in an empty showroom. And it wasn't literally empty, but it's pretty darn close. And I had nothing. And for me, coming from a job where I didn't follow up with customers, I didn't know the value of it. All of a sudden, when I'm in an empty showroom and there's no one coming in the door, or very few people, I got to figure out what am I going to do to get business, especially because now in this new job, my compensation was tied to the success of that department. As a side note, I will say that's the wisest thing you can do as a business owner is tie compensation to performance. It will make everybody better. Your people will make way more money or they'll leave, and it'll just be better for everybody. So please do that for your team. But that was my situation. So since my comp was tied to it, I had to figure out a way to start thinking. So what happened is I moved into using a basic quote log, and it was really simple. I kept an Excel spreadsheet, and when a customer would come in, I would just track, right, the date, the product that they looked at, and if I'd sold it or not. Very, very simple. And this worked for a little while. There were some problems with it. A big problem was that as it filled up, I didn't have a way to truly stay focused, right? I mean, over the course of a year, you get 500 opportunities in this thing, and it's overwhelming, right? So like, who do you follow up with? Do you call somebody back from 11 months ago just out of nowhere and say, hey, it worked a little bit, but there was a lot of roadblocks. Around that time, I started getting busier, and so I started having salespeople underneath me and team members that I was having to teach. And so what we did is we took this concept of a quote log and we moved it into a team CRM spreadsheet, where I'll explain how to do this a little bit later. But we created a shared spreadsheet between everybody on the team that could be accessed 24 hours a day. And what we did is we added way more categories. So we started tracking where in the sales pipeline was this customer. Have they received an estimate? Have we been out to their house for an in-home visit? Are they looking around at other competitors? Have they bought, or did we lose the job? Whatever it was. So we started tracking sales pipeline. We started tracking how good of an opportunity this job was. Is it an A-level job? Is it a B-level job? A C-level job? And the spreadsheet CRM was incredible. It helped our team get on the same page. We understood based on the notes on the spreadsheet where things were with the customers, and we really started to hum. But eventually we ran into the same problem where the spreadsheet was overwhelming. When you've got 5-6 team members with 500 opportunities apiece inside of there, you lose focus. I mean, it's so hard to stay focused. And the way we are as people, once we start to get overwhelmed like that, we just ignore it. We just make the decision, hey, I'm just going to focus on something else that I can actually tackle. So we ran into a roadblock there. Everything changed last year when I went to a sales workshop by a gentleman named Bradley Hartman. And I'm going to give you a slide for him in just a second, but he conceptualized an idea that I took and ran with, and we added a weekly game plan where team members were able to actually look at their opportunities, pick a few of them, and focus on those for the week and turn the results into me at the end of the week. And I'm telling you, this changed everything because it gave us a way to manage the big picture of every opportunity that's out there, and then the micro, what am I going to do about it this week? So I want to the reason I show you guys this, and the reason I'm taking so long to talk about this up front, is that what I'm going to explain is not theory. This is just what I've actually done. And we've seen huge effectiveness at every stage of the game, right? To go from not following up at all to using just a basic quote log, I saw a big bump in effectiveness. To convert that into a team CRM spreadsheet, we saw way more effectiveness. And then to add the weekly game plan was the icing on the cake. And I want to save you guys 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears that I ran into as I stumbled my way through this. So that's what the heart of this is today. So this slide here is from my friend Bradley Hartman. He is out of Fort Worth, Texas. And if you're into podcasts, he's got an amazing podcast called the Behind Your Back podcast. And if you guys sell in the B2B space where you sell to builders, remodelers, architects, designers, you have to listen to his content. He has a workshop every year called the Sales Fundamentals Workshop. This year it's coming up in September, and I'm actually going to be helping him teach it down in Fort Worth, Texas. When I was there last year, he presented this concept of a game plan, and it changed everything for me. We're gonna take a deep dive later on in the course on how to build this, but I want to credit him for his work, and I want you guys to check out his content because the Behind Your Back podcast is an absolute game changer. So as we dive into this, we're going to talk about how to build a CRM spreadsheet. And this is an example on the screen right here of what ours looks like. And you're going to look at this and be like, Tim, that's totally simple. It is totally simple. If you look at this, keeping track of your opportunities is not hard, but you need to build infrastructure for your team. So this is a Google Sheet. And the reason we use Google Sheets as opposed to Excel is that this is accessible on the internet to anybody, anywhere. So if you're in a team setting, it's super important that team members know the status of everybody's jobs. So what we have here, if you look at this, is that across the bottom, we've got a tab for the different salespeople, right? You've got salesperson 1, salesperson 2, salesperson 3. You can set up permissions on this spreadsheet so that only managers and team members can edit their tab, but everybody's got visibility to it. We've got the salesperson's name in the top left corner. We've got their year-to-date close rate. We've got how many jobs are in the CRM, and we've got their close rate in the last 30 days. This also uses visual management, where if a job has been won, the whole line is green. If a job has been lost, the whole line is red. So a team member can very quickly look at this and visually understand how they're doing. That in and of itself is a game changer for team members. When they know what their close rate is, when they know how many new opportunities are getting added to their plate, it really increases their productivity. But I want to take you on a deep dive through these categories because it's really, really important. I know there's going to be questions here, so please type your questions into the chat. This is where it goes deep, okay? Here's the categories that we track for every single customer that we write up an estimate for. Date, customer name, phone number, email address, unit, so like that's the specific model number, brand X, model Y. Type, so that's going to be the category, gas insert, wood stove, pellet stove, whatever the category is. Dollar value, job level. So you see on there, we've got A, B, C, we got all those categories there. So not all opportunities are created equal, and it's extremely important for your team. If they're going to start following up, why would they follow up on the worst opportunities when they haven't followed up on the best ones? Categorizing your jobs, A, B, C, D, I'll go through that in just a minute, is so valuable. After that, we track the pipeline stage. So you want to create a sales pipeline and think about what's the journey our customers take. Again, I'll give you these steps here in just a minute. But you want to know very quickly, okay, this customer looked at this product for this much money, and this is where they are in the pipeline right now. You want to track how many follow-ups have been made, the last date of contact with that customer, what the next step is that needs to be taken, and you want to have any miscellaneous notes on the job. Okay, so to zoom in a level deeper on job level, this is really critical. And you look at it like we've only got so much time in a day. So if you're a salesperson and you've got 500 opportunities, we know that all jobs aren't created equal. So why would you spend your time following up on jobs that you don't want, that are low profit, high time, high risk? Like, why would you waste your time following up on those when you've got a whole stack of A-level opportunities that are low time, high profit, low risk that you can do work on? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But again, I'm thinking back to me 10 years ago, I'd never even thought about this, right? It hadn't even entered my mind. And I would say for your team, they're not lazy, they're not ill-willed, but they haven't thought about jobs this way. All jobs are not created equal. And one of the best things that you can do is create a rubric of defining what an A, B, C, and D level job is, right? It's like grades in school. Now, as I ran sales teams, if a job was an F, we didn't bid it. If a job was a D, oh man, like we didn't want to bid it, but we felt like, oh, we probably need to. And, we would price it accordingly because and we'd be honest about that. It's high difficulty, high risk, high time, and it will be priced accordingly. A, B, and C is where I want to focus on. And we can go specific if you guys have questions here, but your A-level jobs are low time, low risk, and high profit, right? We want as many of these as possible. I mean, why wouldn't you want these jobs? I mean, I think in my market, a gas-to-gas insert, right? If someone's got a brick fireplace with gas line inside of it, that is an A-level job. High profit, low risk, low time, high customer satisfaction rate. Like, load me up with those jobs. There's actually companies out there I know of that have created a fast lane where they dedicate certain days of the week of their install schedule to only A-level jobs. It changes the way that you install because all of a sudden you can go from 1 to 2 jobs a day to 3 to 4 a day. So think about this with your A-level opportunities. Okay, B-level jobs are still really good, but they tend to be higher time, higher risk, slightly more difficult. Yeah, Justin says, interesting. I'm so glad that you say that because I never thought about this years ago, but it changed the way we followed up and it changed the way that we scheduled. So your B-level jobs, they're still really good, but there's something about it that's higher time, higher risk, or more difficult. To give you an example for us, we had gas inserts with gas line in the fireplace as an A-level job. Wood stoves were a B-level job because it's still great, right? We still want it. It's higher time. There's higher risk, right? We're cutting holes in ceilings and having to mess with what's inside of the attic and things like that. We're not just dropping a 3-inch liner down the chimney. But we still want these jobs. Like our wood stove jobs are really good. But if I can choose between selling, 2 wood stoves and 2 gas inserts, like I'd rather sell 2 gas inserts because they cost about the same and I'll still have time left in the day to install more. That might be different for your business, but conceptually, this is the way to think about it. C-level jobs. These jobs are okay, but not preferred. This could be due to complexity, time, profit, or customer difficulty. Okay. So we built an actual rubric, and I'm happy to send this out to the group if that would be helpful. What we did is we looked at the different pieces of a job, and we had to rate each one. So we had, first of all, like product category. So a gas insert started out as an A-level job. A wood stove started out as a B-level job. A wood stove would never be an A-level job. It would always, a B was the highest it could go. For us, pellet was a C-level job. And maybe in your business, you do a lot more pellet, but for us, we didn't have the volume. We didn't buy it quite as well. There was more complexity. And so pellet was a C-level job. We still wanted those jobs, but man, if we had a choice, like we would take the A and the B-level stuff. D for us would be like a corner inside fit glass door. Do you guys resonate with that? Is that a D-level job for you guys? Punch that into the chat if that's the case. But for us, like I swear, we couldn't charge enough for those glass doors, right? Yeah, nightmare, LOL. And we would just be honest with customers, like, yeah, our glass doors start at $2,000 and we know they're expensive, but we're going to make sure that it goes right for you. And that's why we charge this. So we would just be honest with that and own it. But what we would do is, so that'd be the unit, right? So your unit could be an A, B, C, or D. But then we had a separate category for vent pipe, where maybe if it's a simple flex vent that's dropping down a chimney, that's an A-level venting scenario. A wood stove, 1 story, that's a B-level scenario. A wood stove out a wall and up the side of a house, that would be a C-level scenario. So the point is that the team would have to go through these 3 or 4 different parts of a job. They would pull all of the letters that were graded, and the lowest grade is what the job is. So you could have a gas insert, but maybe the gas line is like 200 feet and you have to dig a trench. That instantly takes an A-level gas insert, makes it a D-level job. So that helps us think about this. And team members would start to say, well, okay, I still want this job. What can I do to make this an A-level job? Maybe I can get the customer to dig the trench, and that would take it to a C. Maybe there's a subcontractor they work with that can tackle the gas line so that all we're doing is coming in to nail the fireplace. That would make it an A-level job. Thinking about it in these terms will clarify and help your sales team in huge ways. Amanda's asking for the rubric. I will absolutely send that out. You can modify it however you want. Obviously, it's going to be based on how I ran it with my teams. Any more questions about job level before we move on? Okay, let's keep moving here to what's next, because this is really, really important, okay? So after job level, what we want to start talking about is pipeline stages. And you can see this little zoomed in part of the CRM right here, that there's a number of different stages in the process. And the ones that I've used, they actually start at stage 0. So like a customer at stage 0 is a customer that needs a proposal, right? This would be if a lead comes in from your manufacturer or from your sales rep, right? They're not even at stage 1, they're at stage 0. They need a proposal. Stage 1 of the pipeline is when a customer has received a proposal or an estimate range for what their project's going to cost. Stage 2 is when they've scheduled an in-home appointment. Stage 3, they've completed an in-home appointment. And stage 4, the job is either won, lost, put on hold, or it's still open. Okay. Let me know if those stages make sense. It's very, very simple to think about this, but it will change the way you run your business. And most companies don't track this stuff. I literally had a meeting with a I'm not going to say who this was, but a very high-ranking person in our industry that works for a major manufacturer. And they asked if I invented a sales pipeline because they'd never heard of it. You know, if you start thinking about things this way, it is a superpower, because when you follow up with customers, you're not jumping ahead with steps, right? If a customer is at stage 0, I can't ask for the money. If a customer is at stage 0, I don't want to come out to the house. If a customer's at stage 0, step 1 is we get them an estimate range, because I'm not going out to the house to waste my time or theirs if they don't understand the budget for this project, right? Like that sales 101, don't waste your time. So understanding in the sales process, I'm always just asking for the next step. That'll change the way that your team operates. It'll make them very effective. So those are the stages of the pipeline. Stage 1, they get a proposal. Stage 2, they schedule an in-home visit. Stage 3, they complete the in-home visit. And stage 4, the job is won, lost, or sold. Let me know if that resonates with you in the chat. Okay, so as we move on next, the thing that we have to track inside of our CRM is the follow-ups that have been made, the last contact, and any notes. And I've got a little quote here that says, salespeople get overwhelmed and afraid to follow up when they don't know where things were left off with their customer. And I'm going to call on somebody here. So Erica, would you find someone on the call that I can call on? Because I think it's really important about this. I want to ask the question, and we can talk about it once we decide who this person is. Have you or a member of your sales team ever been afraid to follow up with your customers for whatever reason? You feel like you're being sleazy, you feel like you're being pushy, you're nervous, you're not confident. Have you ever been afraid to follow up with a customer? I have. And I still fight that sometimes. It's the truth. Here's the way to overcome it. You track your notes. So if you're a salesperson and you haven't kept any notes, you don't know when you followed up last with this customer, you don't know when you made contact, and you have no idea who they are, what the status of their job is, of course you're nervous to call them. But think about the difference. Like look at this example right here. I'm looking at the customer where it says under last contact, it says it was on 4/3/2020. And it says, what's the next step? Call on Friday, 4/10 to compare our bids. And then the notes say that we completed the site visit. They're getting 2 other bids and want to call back later. All of a sudden, I'm empowered to make that call because I know that, okay, I talked to them last on whatever day that was, the 3rd of April. They want me to call them on Friday. And the notes say it's because they're getting a couple of extra bids and they want to go over their options. So is that follow-up easy now? It's so easy, right? I'm totally empowered to call them because I know what I'm doing. If you don't have notes like this, you're left in the dark, and salespeople get very afraid of that. Erica, were you able to find anybody that wants to be brave and talk about this?
Oh, I didn't know if I was supposed to ask them or if you just wanted me to pick someone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you pick someone.
Well, I mean, Kim was very, I know that her audio works, or even Michelle P's. So I would go with one of them first.
Let's go with Kim. So Kim, if you want to take yourself off mute, does this resonate at all? And you don't have to say whether it's you or a team member, but have you or any of your team members ever fought the fear of following up?
Absolutely.
I felt this. I felt the same thing. Why do you think it is?
Well, I think exactly what you say, just not feeling empowered to necessarily know all the information. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Just even the example you give, having that information, you just showed right there, like, oh, wow, all that confidence you have, knowing exactly what you're talking about makes it takes all the intimidation out of making that phone call.
And it kind of makes it like a service to the customer, doesn't it? Like it is just a fictitious case, but like they're actually expecting that you follow up.
They're waiting for you to call.
Totally. And this is one thing too. I appreciate you talking about that, Kim, because I know that this resonates with people. And what it comes down to is a lack of confidence. Like if we don't believe in what we sell, well, yeah, we're gonna be nervous to follow up on it. But a lot of it comes down to just lack of information, where if you make me call someone from 11 months ago I haven't talked to, I don't remember any of our conversation, of course I'm nervous and I'm stumbling over myself being like, hey, I'm following up, and did you want to place your deposit? Versus the confidence of maybe you're not asking for the money. Maybe you call to follow up and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm following up with you because you were in the showroom over the weekend and we wrote up this estimate on the fireplace. You mentioned you were going on vacation, so you didn't want to schedule an in-home visit yet. Now that you're back, is there a date that would work well for you? I'm not asking for the money. but I'm asking for the next step in the sales pipeline. So because I understand the pipeline, I'm confident in what I need to ask. And because I know what I need to ask, and I have got in my notes in the CRM that they were in the showroom last weekend, they're going on vacation, touch base with them after this day to schedule a visit, it changes the way that I follow up. So doing this for your team members is radical. And you might find some resistance to it, but I'm
Well,
telling
and
you.
actually, I think it shows a level of personal, like you just made a relationship with that customer. Like you remembered that they were going on vacation. You took an interest in something that they had going on. And to them, that may actually be the tipping point. Like, wow, they actually took an interest in me beyond just the sale. And that might be what chooses, you as the person for the actual final sale.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And what we get nervous thinking like, well, I hear this all the time. I don't want to be pushy. I get it, but trust me, you're not pushy. You're being confident that, like, if you don't call a customer for fear of being pushy, customers are going to assume that you actually don't care about them. And if you can follow up like this with real tangible next steps using real information from the conversation, number one, it makes a connection, but it shows you're a professional. Like they have a problem, you have a solution, and you are doing your job to follow up. And if they say no, or if they say don't call me, you totally respect that, and you don't call them again. But how dare we not even give them the opportunity to say yes or no to the product? If we do that, it's wasting their time and our time. Let's at least ask them the question, hey, do you want to have us come out to the house? And then once we come out to the house, would you like to place a deposit? If they say no, ask them why. And if they buy somewhere else, say, hey, no problem. I really appreciate your time. Looks like Justin's got a couple questions here. Let me pull the chat window up. Kim, thank you. That's awesome. Okay, Justin says, Tim, couple of questions. Did this change your close rate, and how did you track the close rate? Yes, it absolutely did. So I will tell you, in the house, it changed our close rates from an average of like 35% to over 70. So like it pretty much doubled our close rates when we were in the house. What we found for an average team member over the course of a year would be that if we could write up an estimate, we would close 40 to 50% of the time. I'd feel really good about 45%. And that was great for us. So we were able to track that. And compared to before, again, when you're not following up on jobs, the only people you're selling to are people that are coming in to buy anyway. So like if you get someone that comes in, one time in, one time out, great, you didn't mess it up, but yes, you didn't sell them anything. They were coming in to buy. To win over customers that have other things on their mind that aren't quite as determined, it's going to take time, it's going to take follow-up, and it's honestly going to take probably 7 to 8 touches. I really recommend following up a minimum 7 times with the customer. Minimum 7 times. And as you follow up, you ask them questions about, hey, I understand you're looking at these bids. When's a good time for me to follow up with you? Let them tell you, and that way when you call them later, it's a service. Plus you're doing what you said when you said you're going to do it. The other part of this is that if a customer says, hey, we just decided to put the project on hold for now. Empathize. Hey, I totally understand. Would it be okay if I circle back with you in 6 months just to see where the project's at? Ask those questions. That's what a professional does, and you won't believe how many sales are made because of that diligent work. Okay, Justin asked about how do we track close rate. In this CRM, it's all manual. So basically what we do in this CRM, and I can even send you guys a template of this if that'd be helpful for you. But in this CRM, when they update the pipeline stage to the job being won, it automatically adds that to the close percentage. So great question, but that's something that the sales team is working on a daily basis. And so, so with the CRM, it's important to realize that this needs to be up in front of them every single day. And I'm going to go through this really quick because I'm going to explain it. And when I send you the template, if you guys want to see that, you'll be able to see how this works. But you can create filters. So if a team member looks at the CRM and they got 500 opportunities on it, it's overwhelming. That was the roadblock I ran into before the weekly game plan. Is eventually you get to have so many, it's like you forget about the people from 6 months ago because they're so far away on the CRM spreadsheet. So we create filters. And a filter is, if you're familiar with Excel or Google Sheets, it's a way to categorize data. And we create different filter views where we create a snapshot where you can click a button and see everything in your last 30 days. You can click another filter and look at all of your A and B level opportunities in the last 30 days. You can look at all of your stage 1 jobs that are out there. You can look at all of your stage 1 jobs in the last 30 days. Again, stage 1 is a customer that's received a proposal but is not committed to an in-home visit yet. The point is, it's a way to filter your data. So a team member could say, hey, on Monday, I'm going to work on my stage 1 jobs and try to get that in-home visit scheduled. Well, that repetition helps get them in the groove. So they can start making 15, 20 phone calls, and they might win 10 site visits from it because they're doing the same thing over and over and over, getting better every single time. Maybe on Wednesdays, they're going to call all their stage 3 opportunities, which is customers who are, they're down in the funnel. They've completed the in-home visit. The estimate is ready to go, and they're going to ask for the money. So this gives focus to work, and you're going to find that it increases the effectiveness of your salespeople. To give you an example, I had a team member that this was their growth curve with me. They got hired at 22-ish years old. Young kid, hadn't gone to college, like good, honest, hard worker. Spent about 6 months in the warehouse, and then ended up on the sales floor a little while later. Their growth curve as far as sales per year was this: 350,000 year 1, about 700 year 2, 850 year 3, and over $1 million year 4. The only way that happened was by having a system and a process of follow-up. I mean, that was a monumental increase. We've seen the same thing. I mean, I'll tell you stories. There's salespeople I've run through the system that none of you would have hired. And there's been bad hires that I've made where we've had to change people, after a little while. But during the time that they were here, we've had salespeople that sell over $500,000 a year. I mean, $600,000 a year, even with bad habits on the sales floor, even without self-awareness, even being abrasive sometimes to customers because they're maniacal about working the CRM and following up. So this will help set you free from the curse of the 20-year sales vet that you're terrified is going to leave your company, but they have really bad habits. This will set you free from that. We've run, I'm trying to think now, probably 8 salespeople through this, that every single one of them gets well over $600,000 a year per person because they have a system that they can go through and they can use it very quickly. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm trying to say that this is possible. You can absolutely take your people through this. They need to work it every day. They always need to have the CRM in front of them at all times. So they always need to have it pulled up. It's a shared document. So if a team member is off work, then the rest of the team is going to be able to look at their opportunities. Like if a customer comes in and asks questions, they'll be able to look at the notes. They'll be able to send an email with updated notes to add once the team member comes back. And even though this is simple, the mistake is to look at this and go, yeah, it's just a stupid spreadsheet. It is a stupid spreadsheet, but the simplicity of this is something that will change your business. And it's simple enough that your team can get their head around it. Sometimes people say, oh, it's a bunch of extra paperwork. I'm not going to update those notes. It's going to take me so much time to do this. It takes you about 10 seconds a customer. Honestly, how many bids are you writing up a day? Even an amazing retail team member in season, like 4, 5. So it takes an extra 50 seconds of your day to update this thing. It's not about the time. It's about the discipline. And a lot of salespeople don't have discipline. So that's where part 2 and 3 of this workshop are going to come into play. So the CRM is amazing. It will change the way that your team operates, but it has a limit. And that limit is people get overwhelmed. Even though we've got filters to look at these different categories of jobs, it's still going to get to a point where even if they're looking at their stuff that's only their A-level opportunities, there could still be 150 of them, way more than they're going to be able to deal with. So we have to focus with a weekly game plan. This is a quote from my friend Tim Rethlake. You might be familiar with him. And he has said that a room full of salespeople is like a room full of monkeys. Nearly every act is random. And I'm gonna tell you about my life. That's true for me. So for me, when people meet me sometimes, they think I'm really organized. And left to my own devices, I'm not. Organization has been a learned habit over the years. Large credit goes to my wife. But what I found for me is that because I'm naturally a creative, I have to build models into my life that give me focus. Otherwise, I'll just descend into chaos. And the CRM and this weekly game plan is a model that your team can put into use, and it will focus their energy, and all of a sudden they will get organized. I have to build models for my morning routine. I have to build models for how I plan my week, How do I spend my days when I'm working from home versus days where I'm in the field? I have to have a model for those things because I can't trust myself to not descend into the chaos. This is a model for your team that will absolutely change the way that they work. Okay, Justin says it was great. Justin, hey, it's good to see you, man, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of this. Okay, so this is the weekly game plan. I want to show you guys this here. It's really simple. It's a sheet of paper, and this is going to focus your sales team. We'll go through this in detail in a minute, but focus is the key to productivity. So as a sales leader, your job is to do a few things for your team. Number one, draw lines on the court. When I showed you that picture of myself from 10 years ago, I thought I was a good salesperson. And, you know, obviously there was some frustration where the owner of the company wanted me to follow up more and I wasn't following up. Well, there weren't lines on the court drawn. No one drew up, this is what a sales job is. This is what it means to follow up. Here's a tool to help you do that. So as a sales leader, most frustration comes down to not setting expectations for your team by drawing lines on the court. Failure to communicate expectations is the number one problem I find when I go into businesses and there's frustration, is that the expectations haven't been communicated. So you got to draw lines on the court for the team. Once you've done that, teach them how to play the game. If you just drop the CRM in front of them and say, hey, start using this, good luck, right? If you just show them the weekly game plan, they're going to say, yeah, right, that thing's going to take me an hour to fill out. You got to teach them how to play the game. Don't just give them the rule book, teach them. You got to evaluate their performance. Team members want to be held accountable because they want to win. As a sales leader, it is your job to hold them accountable and help them win or help them learn, okay? We have to evaluate performance, and this weekly game plan is going to start to do that. Lastly, as a sales leader, we get to inspire our team to keep going. If you're not focused on setting expectations and drawing lines on the court, if you are not teaching your team how to be better at what they do, if you're not evaluating their performance, they're not going to be inspired by you. They might be inspired by someone else at a different company and they go elsewhere. So this is the key also to retaining good talent, okay? So focus is the key, and that's what the weekly game plan does. So this is what it looks like. I got it right here in front of me, and it's up on the screen there. This weekly game plan, as I tell you what's on it, it's going to seem overwhelming, and it is. There's a lot here. But it is possible, and it'll change the way that your team works. Okay, right here, number one, we've got a weekly big three. At the beginning of the week, a team member needs to identify what are the three top things they got to get done this week. For me, like, I didn't care if people put personal stuff on here. They got to get it done. And what are the three things you got to get done this week? Just get it out there on this weekly game plan. After that, if you look in the left-hand column, you're gonna see something that says proposal with an arrow moving to site visit. This is where, at the beginning of the week, the team members got to go through their CRM and pick 10 jobs where the customer has received a proposal but has not yet scheduled a site visit. They have to write those customers down. What's the product that they're looking at? What's the dollar value for it? Their goal for the week is to call or email or text all those customers and move them from a written proposal into a scheduled in-home visit. Column number 2 in the center towards the top says site visit with an arrow towards deposit. This is identifying 10 customers in your CRM who you've completed the site visit for, and now you just need to collect the money. We're gonna call those 10 this week. We're gonna say, hey, we completed that visit last week. Did you have any remaining questions? We'd love to get you on the schedule. We're asking for the money, but only for the customers that are at that stage of the pipeline. Keep going to the right. In the blue, we've got thank yous. 5 customers from the past that have bought from us that we want to call and say thank you. We want to send them a $5 Starbucks card, write them a note, get a Google review. But we want to find a way to check in with 5 past customers. As you move down towards the bottom right, we've got target accounts. This is going to be 10 B2B, business to business accounts that currently don't do business with us that we want to win. And we want to know who the account is and what's an action you're going to take this week to move the needle. So this is like builders, architects, designers, landscapers, businesses that do repeat business that you want to win, and they're not currently doing business with you. So this means you got to prospect. Who are the 10 accounts you're going to go after? And those 10 accounts probably don't change. They probably stay the same on this list until you win them or until you decide that you're not going to go after it anymore. But every week you got to ask yourself, what's one thing I'm going to do? Maybe I'll stop by one of their job sites and talk to a superintendent about their experience with their fireplace provider. Maybe I will buy lunch for their office. Whatever it is, what's an action you're going to take this week? In the green, we've got site visits this week. So these are customers that we are going out to their house this week. And this could be you personally, or maybe your company has an estimator that goes out. Either way is fine, but document who are those people this week. And there's 3 things you want to look at. What's the customer's name? What's the product that they're looking at? And then look at that acronym there. It's AFTM. And that stands for ask for the money. There's a funny story about Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, saying that there's 5 rules of sales. Rule number 1 is always ask for the money. And he forgot the other 4. The point is that if you don't ask for the money, you can't sell anything. And when you're out at a customer's house for an in-home visit, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's important. When you're out at a customer's house for an in-home visit, you must present a final number in the house and ask for the money. That's the time to do it. Do not ever, ever, ever say, well, we'll go back and crunch the numbers and send the bid over to you. It kills the momentum of the sale. It wastes the customer's time, and it makes them think, I wonder who else I should call while I'm waiting for this bid. You're at the house, they've set time aside in their schedule, write it up and ask for the money. The reason that that is on this part of the weekly game plan is you want to look at all your visits for the upcoming week. At the end of the visit, can you check the box that you asked for the money? And if you can't, don't check the box. But at the end of the week, you're going to be able to look at this and see, well, I went out to 10 houses and I actually only asked for the money on 3 of them. There's some opportunity to change things. What we found is that we found that before we started tracking this, we would ask for the money on less than 20% of the in-home visits we went to. That lowered our close rate significantly because customers lost momentum. They kept shopping while we were getting our bid together. If we didn't get the bid done on time, customers got mad, made us look bad, and maybe they didn't buy, or maybe if they did buy and something went wrong on the job, they think we're stupid because we have shown through our incompetency so far that we don't do things when we say we're going to do it. For every reason in the world, tracking this changed the way that we worked. And you want to just ask the question, did I ask for the money? If they said no, totally fine. Now you move into the follow-up process. But they invited you out to the house for a reason. They want you to be right. So you got to ask for the money when you're out there. It's also going to save you time, right? If you can get the deposit when you're out at the house, you don't have to call them back, right? Like you can keep moving. So it's really, really important that you do this. Any questions about the weekly game plan so far and the way that that works? You can type them into the chat if you have them. This just shows you the categories. You know, you're tracking the proposals to in-home visits. You're targeting 10 jobs to go from in-home visits to a deposit. You're targeting how many in-home jobs you had this week. Thank yous, target accounts, and a weekly big 3. And you might say, Tim, like that's a lot of jobs. It's 45. It's 45 jobs a week. That's a lot of jobs. And I'm going to tell you, it will take you a solid hour to do this the first time. Once you get in the groove, you can do it in about 40 minutes. But one of the best things you can do for your team is give them an hour at the beginning of the week when your store is not open to plan their week. It is literally the most effective hour they will spend. As I go through a rhythm myself, on Sunday nights, I plan out my week, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half. And I'm telling you that my week succeeds or fails based on if I planned it, like almost to a T. It is very, very rare that I don't plan my week, but the weeks that I don't plan because I'm busy, I think I can just do it the next day, my week's gone. Give your team members dedicated time to plan their week. In 1 month, they'll follow it up with 40 customers. I guess this assumes there's 4 weeks in a month, but they'll follow it up with 40 customers to move them from an estimate to an in-home visit. They will have asked 40 customers that had completed the in-home visit to place a deposit. They'll have reached out to 20 past customers to check in on how they were doing, and they will have knocked out 12 critical things that need to be done. I just want you to punch into the chat. Have you ever had a team member be that effective in a week? Has that ever happened? For many companies, it hasn't. What I want to show you is this is something that really, really works. And the way that I would do it is I would require that my team fills it out at the beginning of the week and they send it to me. This right here is an example. I had a team member that wasn't the most adept with technology. And every week they would tape it to their desk, they would take a picture of it, and they would send it to me. And if you look at that, like I love seeing a weekly game plan that's marked up, that's covered in highlighter, that's got coffee spilled all over it, because this game plan needs to be with that team member every single second that they're in the office. Whenever they have downtime, They open this up, they knock something out, they cross it off, and at the end of the week, this thing should look like that one, and it needs to be sent in to you. So this is a management system that's going to help you and your team, where at the beginning of the week, you're giving them an hour to put it together, and they can turn it into you, so you can at least see what they're going after. But at the end of the week, they're going to turn it in so you can check their effectiveness. I never, ever berated team members for not completing a game plan perfectly. Never, because we all get busy. But if for a number of weeks it looked like they weren't making much progress, all of a sudden that's when you can jump in and start talking and say, hey, it looks like you're having a hard time getting through this. Are there other things that are going on that are roadblocks that I can remove so that you can focus on this game plan? The truth is, in sales, these activities are what will make your company money. If it's not on this list, like, it's not making your company money. And everyone has to deal with certain things they don't like to some degree. But as a sales leader, you got to keep your team selling. And this is absolutely going to help you do that. Any questions on that weekly game plan before we move on to how to actually implement this? Any questions so far? I know that this is a lot. I know that these are new concepts. Please take yourself off mute and ask if you have those questions. Nothing. No questions on the game plan. Okay, so we'll jump into part 3, which is measurement and accountability. How do we actually implement this, right? I see the CRM. I think it can help me. I've got the weekly game plan. That's going to be great, but my team's never done anything like this, Tim. What on earth do I do? You don't know my team. They're not going to buy into this. Here's how you implement it. That's what part 3 is all about: measurement and accountability. In order to do this, we have to be a leader, and we have to build rhythms into our week and into our month. If you can build these rhythms in, doing this is going to be, I'm not going to say easy, but very, very possible. The first day of the week, team members are given 1 hour before the store opens to complete and turn in their weekly game plan. So the reason I say first day of the week is that some team members start on Monday, some team members start on Tuesday. Whatever a team member's first day of the week is, they need to be given an hour with no responsibilities except for getting this done. So if your store opens at 9, they need to come in at 8. From 8 to 9, their cell phone is turned off, their email is turned off. The only thing they're doing is filling this out and looking at their CRM spreadsheet to do it. I would advise, as you start this, you're going to have to do this with your team. I would say for the first 4 months, you're going to need to do this with them, where you come in at 8 o'clock. You help your team do this. I would buy coffee and donuts, make it fun. This is going to take an hour, but the first day of the week, they plan their week. That's what they do. The last day of the week, team members turn in their completed game plan. I said here, hopefully it's all marked up and messy. At the end of the week, they turn it in. Maybe there's a box they can turn it in. Maybe they snap a picture of it, just like my team member did back there. That's what they need to do. There must be weekly meetings. If you're not doing this anyway, you need to. Regular meetings are the lifeblood of a company. They absolutely are. I'm happy to talk with you. I can send you agendas for meetings if you'd like, but you've got to have a weekly meeting with your sales team. If your company is 3 people and your sales team is you, that's fine. Have a meeting with yourself and maybe bring somebody else in just to bounce things off of them. But there's got to be a weekly meeting where you review the results of, hey, how do we do this week on our game plans? What are you guys doing to carve out time to be more effective with this? Next week, maybe I'm going to time block 2 hours on Wednesday. Can you guys cover the showroom floor for me while I time block these 2 hours? Weekly meetings are the lifeblood of a company. They will change the way that you are as a leader. They will have your team buy into what you're saying, and team members will ultimately stay there longer if you have weekly meetings. If you don't have time for weekly meetings, you're going to lose, period. So you got to have weekly meetings. Lastly is monthly one-on-one coaching. So every month, if you're in a position of leadership, you must meet with your team members. I would recommend outside the office once a month. Grab a cup of coffee, grab a lunch, whatever it is, but just talk about how things are going. How are you doing in life? How are you doing with your goals? How's this game plan going for you? Are you finding time to be able to use it and work the system? It's really, really important that you do this. What you're going to find is if team members, and I get this is different, but if you give it a few months, you're helping them every step of the way, and team members still resist and still say it's stupid, it's a waste of time, I'm telling you, they're not salespeople. They're not. They are like me 10 years ago, thinking that a sales job is talking to customers on the showroom floor. That's 20% of the sales job. So that means if they want to stay in that role, it's totally fine. But their compensation structure is going to change. They're not going to be paid like a salesperson because they're doing 20% of the work. It's really important that we talk about this. Salespeople that care about their customers will invest in this. It's different. It can be hard, and we're not asking for perfection. But these are the lines on the basketball court, and the game of sales is that we plan our weeks. We use our CRM system. You can be gracious as a mentor and a leader through monthly coaching. So this is the rhythm to put it in play. I would say your first 4 months, buy coffee, buy donuts. It's going to cost you whatever, $40 a month to buy coffee and donuts, maybe $50 a month. It's the best $50 you'll spend. This will increase the effectiveness of your team members by hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's an absolute game changer. And I think that it's unfamiliar, as a leader, it's hard because we're busy. And to go back to that last slide and think, well, man, who's got time to meet, once a month with my team members, to commit to an hour-long sales meeting once a week, to come in, 8 o'clock on Monday to spend time with my team doing this. I get it, but sorry, that's what you signed up for. It's what a leader is. And what you're going to find is that as you do this, you'll find yourself being able to work yourself out of a job. As team members start to get more effective, all of a sudden, you don't need to keep your eye on it as much. All of a sudden, you might find if you're in a position where you're a salesperson, but you're kind of a manager as well, you can step into other things. This increases the effectiveness of your team in a way that was never possible when everyone was flying by the seat of their pants in the Wild West. This will change you from being a treadmill business operator or manager into someone who actually has a system that operates underneath them so that you can go out and do other necessary things to grow the business and invest in your people. It's really important. So as we're rounding out here, I want to just ask a few questions. And I know that the group's been quiet, so I want to do something scary. If everybody can take themselves off of mute, let's just roundtable this together. If everybody can take themselves off of mute. I want to ask, what has this made you think about that you hadn't before? What's this made you think about that you hadn't before?
I think just basically for me, finding a way to, we are a small store. So finding a way to get all of the people to play a role in some level of being a part, whether they're not necessarily a sales member, but how I can adapt them to be a part of the customer service process. I realize that the installers are installing, and yes, that's customer service, but how can we incorporate them on another level of customer service? And how can we just tie everyone's position into more of another piece of this? So like taking your game plan and incorporating it, like we have 5 people in our store, and maybe for us, we take that and adapt that for the 5 of us to work together and start with, okay, this is how we can break this down. And we're gonna maybe do this into little sections initially and go from there. And maybe not always the sales staff sending out the thank yous. Maybe take the installers, or maybe from the manager, or just different aspects. Get some of those other faces involved with the customers as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, and this weekly game plan is obviously tailored to a salesperson, but I would say for everybody in the company, planning their week is super important, right? For an installer, maybe it looks different. Maybe it's, did I look at all the pictures and the notes of every job that I've got coming up this week? Maybe it's
because they're providing our sales staff and our marketing team with the pictures of the installs. Like, let's get them more understanding of that part, like bringing me back the best pictures for our marketing, or whatever the case may be. We all play a super big role in the next sale and how that customer felt about that experience. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's a game changer. And that'll start to actually allow you to build scoreboards. This isn't a course on building scoreboards, but it's one of the most important things you can do in your business is build scoreboards. If you're a small company, maybe there's just one scoreboard and we see like how many installs we did this week compared to this week last year. Maybe we see how many installs were completed the first time without a fallout where we had to go back out to the job site. Maybe they see, maybe not dollars, but how many sales were made this month. Scoreboards make teams rally together. And obviously, this does work when you're in a management position with people underneath you, but it also works if your company is 3-4 people. It's just a little bit different, right? Like if there's just one salesperson, you've got your own weekly game plan, and you just make it a little bit different for the installers. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but this is a journey that will take your team to success. Sure. We got Lorenzo, you're unmuted. Is there anything that this is making you think about?
Yeah, so I don't work with, I'm a regional sales manager for Duravent, and I don't have, a traditional sales team in that we go into the office, and work in that way. But we do have folks that run their own rep companies and agencies, and I've been in the industry for a long time. So figuring out how to integrate these practices with those folks would be good to make sure that my rep teams out in the field are adequately managing their expectations as well.
That's really good. I'll tell you, for me, so I quit my job about a month ago. Great time to start a business yourself. And I left on really good terms, and my former company became a client of mine that I do marketing work for. But as I'm building out products and services for our industry, this CRM system that I showed you, it's what I use. And I'll tell you, a story the other day. I had a customer I was going to be working with on some projects potentially, and I looked in the CRM. Because of that, I found the date of when we last talked. I knew where things were, and so I followed up with that customer, not even asking for the money. I followed up with just a valuable piece of information I found. And I said, hey, I just want to circle back with you. I found this, it was like an article or something like that. It was a video. And I said, hey, I found this video, and I think this is going to be super helpful for where your business is right now. Just wanted to share it with you. I got a text back within like 30 seconds saying, thank you, that's amazing. By the way, let's get this deal done. We got the deal done that day. It happened because I was using a CRM, I knew where things were, and I was trying genuinely to give value to the customer. And if you can do that, this empowers you to do it. This is not sleazy. This empowers you to give value to your customers.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Anybody else? We got a lot of people on mute. Anyone want to take yourselves off mute? I want to ask the question, how's this going to help you during the COVID crisis?
During COVID, you have to reach out and touch everyone even more. And I think, there's a joke going around that people who have your emails, like CEOs of every company, came out and just said, hey, we're still here. But that matters. Even if you haven't done business with that company in a long time, even if it was maybe your dealership that you don't even have that car anymore. You need to make sure that you have a presence, because that's what outside sales is you're making sure you have a presence. You need to do that even more now, even though it's just virtually.
Yeah. Oh man, you are dead on, Lorenzo. We got to be proactive in this. Leads are drying up. Business is still there. Business is absolutely still there, but leads are drying up. And I'll tell you, our industry traditionally in retail is very reactive. Just like I was 10 years ago. I wait for people to come into me. Why would I call them back? If they want to buy, they'll come in and buy. It's not the way that it works. The companies that can be proactive with a follow-up system are going to find that they can sell more with less people. And they're going to find that other businesses don't know what to do. When you're a business that has, again, going back to me 10 years ago, if this would have happened to me, we would have been sunk because no one ever followed up. We didn't even know where to start, right? So now that you guys have this system, this is something where you can start touching base with customers right away and be masters of communication. And this system allows you to handle more in season. And it also makes it to where if your showroom's closed, like literally your team member can work from home. I got this employee from a couple of years ago that went on vacation to Hawaii, and they wanted to take their laptop because they said if they woke up at 6 a.m. in Hawaii, it was 9 o'clock our time, and they wanted to work from 6 to 7 to earn extra commission dollars while they were on vacation. Now you can argue whether that's a wise life choice or not, but they did it, and they were able to work just as effectively from a beach in Hawaii as they were in the office. So I think that this is something that actually can empower us and change the way that we do business going forward. What about this is going to be the toughest to implement with your people?
You're just creating habits. Habits are always hard to start. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think just the time, them seeing that sheet, like you said, and all of a sudden they're like, I have to fill that out now. What?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I've had like the worst offenders are the people that have been doing it for 20 years. And the thing that I say is they're like, well, I don't have time to fill out this stupid piece of paper. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
you don't have time to make money then, because yeah, you've been doing this for 20 years, but I've got a team member that's been doing this for a year and a half that outsells you because they do this. And so there has to be kind of a reality check there that, yeah, it does take time, but if it makes you money and if it helps more customers, like, we got to do it. We had a story about a team member that was hired once in September. And in September, they were hired. They had family in the industry. They didn't know what a gas insert was, but they had some family in the industry. And so they got put on my team. Didn't know what a gas insert was, didn't know what a wood stove was, a zero clearance fireplace, anything like that. We spent 6 weeks training them. So September, halfway through October, they're trained. So they start jumping on the sales floor towards the tail end of October. In December, they sold $60,000 worth of retail products. In January, they sold $80,000 worth of retail products because they had a system. Now, there's other things that went along with that, with the way that we trained and set them up to win. But they literally came to me and they were chomping at the bit saying like, hey, I love this. I don't know what you'd do if you took away the CRM. I don't know what you'd do if you took this game plan away, because this is how I make money. And that's the transition, is that team members got to see that this is a benefit. This helps them make money. And to do that, I think these are going to be the steps to execute. So if you want something tangible to do, here's 3 things. Number 1, set aside 2 hours next week to tackle the CRM spreadsheet. I can send out the template. If Eric wants to follow up with me with everyone's email addresses, I'm happy to send that out to the group. Or maybe Eric, I'll send this to you so you can send it out to everybody. But I would give your team the benefit of, I would load their last at least 12 months worth of customers into the CRM for them. That's what I did with my team when we switched over to this. Is I went through their past jobs that had not closed yet. I input those in. It took me probably 45 minutes per team member, but it was absolutely worth it. So set aside 2 hours to do that. Meet with your team to explain it, talk about the weekly game plan, and fill it out together. Set up regular meetings and one-on-one coaching appointments for the next 3 months. The reason I say 3 months is that if you just book it for a month, you're going to get to month 2, get busy, and you're going to forget about it. But just like Lorenzo said, if you can schedule 3 months worth of your monthly coaching sessions, your weekly meetings, by the time the next 3 months comes by, it's going to be a habit. It's really, really important. If you need help with that, I can help you with meeting agendas or anything. But those steps, I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road. To listen to everything so far and say, that's a good idea, but that's Tim. We can't do that here. You don't know my business. You just wasted your time. This is where the rubber meets the road. If you can do these things, I'm telling you, this will create loyalty with your team members. They will sell more. Your customers are going to be happier, and you're going to make more money. So I hope that this has been beneficial for you. I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. And so I'm going to leave my email address up here because I'd love to connect with you. If you guys have questions, reach out to me, tim@yfire.com. Give me a phone call if you want, and I'm happy to dive deep with you, because every business now needs to find ways to get ahead. Marketing is great, advertising is great, but this is free. You're already paying your team members, so let's increase their effectiveness. With that, I want to say thank you. I have really, really appreciated the chance to talk with you guys, and I hope that this has been beneficial. I know that the people listening to this call and investing in their business, you guys are the ones that can make something happen, so go out and do it.